So we're going to start off by simply learning the shapes. It's not important for you to know which chord you're actually playing. What is important is that you learn how to go about playing the chords and learning how to move your fingers in ways which at first will seem a little awkward, a little cumbersome, but no different to the experience that you had when you first started to learn the guitar. Your fingers will have to just build a little more muscle memory, and they'll be forced to approach the fretboard or sit on the fretboard in ways that you haven't applied them in the past. And like any physical exercise that uses muscles in different ways, there'll be an element of awkwardness and a little bit of adapting and the more that you play, and the more that you practice the different shapes, the more adroit you will become at actually forming the shapes and transitioning from one shape to another. So we're going to tackle the top 4 strings first, and for the first shape it's a case of eating your greens, because it is without a doubt the most difficult of the 4 shapes. We're going to use a C major 7 chord, and we're going to, for reference sake, take an open C chord, and we're going to turn it into a C major 7 drop 2 voicing on the top group of strings, thusly. Okay, so what we've done there is we've used fingers 1 and 2 in the position that you would quite familiarly play, or in a position with which you'd be familiar, playing simply an open C chord. We're going to leave them there. We're going to remove our 3rd finger from the 5th string, and we're going to redeploy it in the same fret to the top string, and then we're going to add in the 4th fret on the G string, or the 3rd string, our little finger. So you can see this is a 4-string chord with 1 finger per fret. It's a bit of a stretch at first, so don't be surprised if you can't play it immediately. One way that you can tackle it is to bar the top 4 strings with your 1st finger, and then simply lay your 2nd and then 3rd and 4th fingers onto the fretboard. The 2nd of the shapes will be somewhat familiar to you because it uses a shape derived from one of the caged bar chords with which you'd be familiar. So there's our C chord in an A form, and to form this C major 7 shape, you take that middle set of barred strings and you add a top note 2 frets above. You can also see that as hailing from the G shape. So there's our G shape there, moved up there to the 5th fret to play a C chord. And then you simply add, mainly with your pinky. You can do it with your 3rd finger, but you'll find in time it's more practical and convenient to play it with your pinky. Now the third of the shapes hails once again from a very familiar movable chord shape from the cage system, being the E shape. So if we take the open E shape and we move it up to the 8th fret, which is the C position, we can form a C major 7 chord by taking a short form of that movable shape and just dropping that note from the 10th to the 9th, and then typically for ease and convenience, I swap fingers. It's your choice whether you do that or not. And the last of them hails from the D shape, or the movable D shape. So there's our D chord, open D chord. If we move that up to the 10th fret, we have a C chord. If we remove our pinky and just play the top 4 strings, we have a C major 7 chord. So what I want you to do is I want you to practice each of those shapes on the top 4 strings. And I want you to practice changing from one shape to another, up and down the neck, and in different order. And I also want you to practice changing shapes in a fixed position. Can't see. Okay. I stress that I don't need you at this point in time to actually learn what chords you're playing. I just want you to practice getting your fingers accustomed to playing chord shapes that you're probably not familiar with. And I want you to get your fingers accustomed to changing from one chord shape to another using those chord shapes. And the more familiar you become with them, the more you can picture them on the fretboard, the more adept you'll become at playing them, and the greater will be the ease with which you incorporate them into your current playing.